Spanning several western states in a watershed the size of France, the Columbia Snake River Basin was once home to the world's most abundant salmon runs. For centuries, these salmon supported the economic, cultural, and spiritual backbone of these states. As many as 16 million fish once returned home from the ocean each year to spawn. But today, a variety of factors are driving these fish toward extinction.
Wild salmon here in the Columbia are in real trouble. In some areas it's because of general habitat loss, but in the most important populations in the pristine headwaters that come from wilderness where the freshwater habitat's the best in the world, it's the strangling effect of the Columbia River hydro system. It's mortality on their way to the sea, it's tremendous mortality on their way from the sea. It just saps the productivity of these populations. By the time they get to the pristine wilderness, there's so few of them.
13 species of wild salmon and steelhead in the Columbia River Basin, including 4 on the Snake River, are listed under the Endangered Species Act. One, Snake River sockeye, may already be lost to future generations. Last year, only 4 sockeye returned to their native spawning beds at fabled Redfish Lake in Idaho's Sawtooth Mountains.
Well, there's not nearly enough being done to save these fish. What we've seen over the past few decades is just a lack of leadership on the part of our federal agencies, on the part of our elected leaders, and we've just seen the salmon runs continue to decline towards extinction.
Some experts believe that the surest way to reverse the decline of the region's wild salmon and steelhead and restore these fish to abundance is to remove 4 outdated and costly dams on the lower Snake River in eastern Washington state.
The most important thing we're trying to do right now to save the Columbia River salmon is calling for the removal of the 4 Snake River dams. That's absolutely critical to bring these fish back. We've spent $7 to $8 billion so far nibbling around the edges, but have yet to address the fundamental issue. Taking the dams out is fundamental to bringing the fish back.
These 4 dams, out of the more than 250 that dot the Columbia Basin, are said to do the most harm to salmon.
The dams and the reservoirs behind them cause a tremendous amount of delay as the fish are migrating from the pristine wilderness in the headwaters to the ocean. Historically, before the hydroelectric system was built, it would take 11 days for them to go from the headwaters to the sea. Now it takes a month and a half. It's a tremendous delay. The dams heat the water. The fish struggle to find their way through 8 dams in a row, 8 sets of lakes, and they're subject to an awful lot of mortality from predators. They start to lose energy. They just wear out on their way to sea.
Well, these 4 dams do provide some important benefits to our region. They provide energy through their hydropower, and they also provide transportation, barge transportation for goods. We feel that there are other ways to meet those needs, including renewables and conservation on the energy side, and also rail and other transportation alternatives.
Removing the 4 lower Snake River dams to save endangered salmon will require both action from Congress and new investments in the region. But proponents of salmon recovery say that the removal of these dams will also bring new economic opportunities that will rejuvenate communities from the mouth of the Columbia River to the mountains of Idaho and Nevada.
What the dam removal will do in the Snake River dams is really allow for opening up of habitat that's been lost. Doing this will then mean that we'll have fish coming back to places such as Idaho, even Nevada, as well as enhancing our fishing communities along the coast because of more fish production.
The core of the problem is the management of the hydroelectric system, the irrigation water withdrawals, the water demands of people in cities, and those are politically off limits. We're not talking about taking out dams, no matter how useless and old and antiquated they are. We're not facing the center of the problem, so we'll end up spending a lot of money, wasting a lot of time, doing a lot of stuff, losing the salmon and blaming it on the weather.
We have spent billions of dollars to keep the dams in place and watch our fish decline. And we're planning to spend billions more to keep the dams in place and watch our fish decline. Instead, what we could do with even just a portion of that money is invest in our rail systems, invest in renewable energy, invest in other ways of getting the benefits of those dams while letting our river run free and our salmon be restored.
We have a lot of smart investment options. We can take that money and we can put it into the things that the science tells us are so important to bringing these fish back. And the first thing on that list is removing the 4 dams on the lower Snake River. It's not that difficult. If we take the money we're spending today on a plan for failure and spend it on a plan for success, we can bring the salmon back to this region.
Former Secretary of the Interior Bruce Babbitt has called the Columbia-Snake River salmon crisis the most important natural resources issue facing the West today. Each year, fewer and fewer wild salmon return, and these fish are running out of time.
Removing these dams would be a win-win for communities from Astoria to Lewiston, Idaho. It would benefit the commercial fishing communities on the coast. It would benefit Lewiston in giving it its free-flowing waterfront back again. It would benefit the recreational fishing communities in central Idaho and all the different towns in between.
Save Our Wild Salmon is a nationwide coalition of businesses, conservation organizations, commercial and sport fishing associations, river groups, and taxpayer and clean energy advocates working collectively to restore healthy, sustainable wild salmon to the rivers, streams, and communities of the Pacific Salmon States.
Save Our Wild Salmon Coalition is spearheading this campaign in several ways. We're talking to people around the nation about the importance of these fish, and we're bringing the communities together in the region to find solutions that work for everybody. Fishermen and farmers, chefs, ratepayers, everybody in the region.
Save Our Wild Salmon is helping people to understand the science that underlies the potential extinction of these fish, what we stand to lose. The good news is people care about these fish and they want them saved. The bad news is they don't understand the science, and they particularly don't understand the accountability of the political decisions that are driving them toward extinction.
The most essential thing that needs to be done for restoring the Columbia River salmon is the removal of the 4 Snake River dams. That, coupled with reoperating the existing dams, that's absolutely essential if we expect to prevent the extinction of these fish and actually bring them back to somewhere near their former abundance.
We need to do the things that are at the core of the problem, which is modification of our hydroelectric system, removal of a very few dams that are not very important to our energy picture and very, very important to the salmon. We need to preserve the headwater habitats because the climate is changing. There are only few places left in the entire basin where we can really produce large quantities of wild salmon. We need to preserve them while we still can.
Consumers can do a lot, and it's simple. They can contact their elected leaders, their members of Congress, and ask them to support removal of the 4 lower Snake River dams.
Consumers can speak up to help us save these wild salmon by insisting that we have scientific analysis of our choices, making politically accountable choices that actually balance our economy and our development and our growth with the needs of these wild salmon. People care about these fish and they want them saved.
For more information about the Columbia and Snake River campaigns or to get involved, visit wildsalmon.org.